Good evening, this is Santa Claus on September 11, 2025, bringing you today's stories from around our world. On this solemn date, we remember those lost in the tragic attacks of 2001, as well as other historical events that have shaped our shared journey through time. My heart is heavy today as I share news of continued tensions in the Middle East. Israel has conducted a brazen airstrike in Qatar, targeting Hamas leaders in a residential neighborhood of Doha. The attack has killed several people, including a Qatari security officer, and has strained Israel's hard-won diplomatic relationships with Gulf states. Qatar, which hosts America's largest military installation in the region and has been mediating peace efforts, had long been considered off-limits for such operations. This troubling development reminds us that the path to peace requires patience, restraint, and respect for territorial sovereignty. Meanwhile, across the globe, our postal services are facing significant challenges. The Universal Postal Congress in Dubai is addressing the impact of new U.S. rules ending the de minimis exemption that previously allowed packages under $800 to enter duty-free. Now, everything except gifts under $100 faces paperwork and tariffs, creating burdens that fall upon senders. Let us remember how interconnected our world has become, and how these seemingly small regulations affect livelihoods and relationships. In a moment of hope amid difficult times, Belarus has released 52 prisoners following an appeal from President Trump. While this falls short of the 1,300 or 1,400 prisoners whose release was initially discussed, each life touched by freedom is precious. In return, the United States has eased some sanctions on Belarus's national airline, allowing it to service its Boeing aircraft. President Trump's envoy has expressed interest in reopening the U.S. Embassy in Minsk and normalizing ties with Belarus. Such diplomatic bridges, when built with care and accountability, can help heal divisions in our global family. On a concerning note, our dear American farmers are facing hardship as China has not booked purchases of U.S. soybeans, using agricultural trade as leverage in ongoing disputes. Nearly a quarter of the 4 billion bushels of soybeans grown by American farmers are typically exported to China, representing around $13 billion in trade last year. The impact on farming communities will be profound, and I ask that we keep these hardworking families in our prayers as they face uncertain markets. Turning our attention to Eastern Europe, Poland has reported drone incursions into its airspace, which it attributes to Russia. The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting to discuss these incidents. Poland has taken the precautionary step of banning drone flights along its eastern borders with Belarus and Ukraine. In these moments of tension, we must advocate for de-escalation and dialogue, remembering that peace is fragile and requires constant nurturing. In Yemen, at least 35 people have reportedly been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Houthi-controlled areas. The Israeli military states these were military targets in response to missile and drone attacks, while Houthi representatives claim civilians, including journalists, were among those lost. Each life is precious, and the cycle of violence brings only more suffering to those already enduring hardship. Looking to positive developments, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada plans to expedite construction of a major expansion of the LNG Canada project, including it on a list of nationally significant infrastructure projects. This initiative aims to stimulate construction activity and boost Canada's economy while diversifying its export partners, a reminder that thoughtful planning can create opportunities even in challenging times. In Ghana, President John Mahama has agreed to accept West African deportees from the United States, with the first group of 14 people already arriving. In South Korea, President Lee Ye-myung expressed concern that a recent U.S. immigration raid on a Hyundai factory was bewildering and could impact future South Korean investments in America. As we navigate these complex immigration matters, may we remember the dignity of each person affected by these policies. The European Union continues its plan to phase out Russian oil and gas imports by 2028, with EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen reaffirming this timeline after meeting with U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. The European Commission has also proposed sanctioning extremist Israeli ministers and suspending certain trade measures with Israel, reflecting growing concern over the conduct of the war in Gaza. In Nepal, Gen Z protesters have backed Sushila Karki, the country's first female chief justice, to temporarily lead the nation after demonstrations forced the prime minister to resign. These young people are calling for parliament to be dissolved while preserving the constitution. Their passion for reform reminds us that each generation brings fresh energy to the work of building just societies. Finally, I must mention the concerning situation in Gaza City, where residents face displacement amid continuing conflict. The humanitarian crisis touches my heart deeply as families search for safety and shelter in increasingly limited spaces. As we reflect on these stories, let us remember that in every challenge lies an opportunity to demonstrate compassion, to extend a helping hand, and to work together toward a more peaceful world. In this season of global uncertainty, may we each find ways to be bearers of hope and instruments of peace in our communities. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus, wishing you a night of comfort and moments of grace.